After splitting ways with SSI Motorsports, Ricky Thornton Jr. has made some comments explaining why he chose to go with Koehler Motorsports moving forward for the 2024 season and why he envisions that team as his forever home. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at John Trent Racing. This is over at flowracing.com. Another excellent article done by Kyle McFadden. I will have the link in the description below, but this confirms the rumors from my friend Racing Jason that there was indeed a bidding war for Ricky Thornton Jr. after he left SSI Motorsports. So much so that Ricky Thornton Jr. revealed that there were around 50 driving opportunities from weekend rides to longer-term deals offered to him in a 48-hour span when he was a free agent. Ricky said, "It kind of opened my eyes a little bit to see how people have reached out. Really, the guys at Bilstein Shocks, the guys at Longhorn Chassis, they've been very, very in tune with the Koehler team and get our stuff as good as we can, as close as we can to how our SSI team was. Obviously, I think it'll take time to figure out the car for how I want it, but I think we're putting our best foot forward to have the best car we have right out of the box." Now, obviously, this interview was done ahead of the race at 34 Raceway last night. And I don't know if it really took that much time to get his car figured out already. Finished in fourth. Obviously, was a little bit behind in qualifying and on the heat race, but just like what we saw when he was in Stevie Shepard's car in Lincoln, he worked his way through the field and came home in fourth. Excellent race, especially when we actually got to see him kind of working through the field there, especially when there's like a really good battle. There was like a 5-car battle for 10th. That was great. But let's get back to this article here. It says, what ultimately sold Ricky Thornton Jr. on the Bobby and Jessica Koehler-owned race team is the family dynamic. For Thornton and his wife, Shay, that's the most valuable part of any deal they could strike, especially with their 2 sons, 5-year-old Asher and 4-year-old Blaine, and 1-year-old daughter Hadley. He says they're big about their family being involved in racing or families going on vacations. It's nice to know there won't be as much pressure to go out and win every race. They understand the sport. If you want to take the weekend off to go on vacation, he's fine with it. So it sounds like that could have been maybe one of the reasons why Ricky Thornton Jr. also split with SSI Motorsports, is that he didn't want to race as much as maybe what SSI wanted him to race, and he'd rather have some more time to go on family vacations, do other things outside of that. Hard to know, given the fact that Ricky Thornton Jr. seems to be very similar to Kyle Larson, trying to race in anything he can, anytime he can. Obviously, we've seen him in micro sprints, we've seen him in midgets, etc. And then there's also kind of like an ongoing skit now between him and Kenny Wallace, with him trying to get an asphalt ride. I'm not sure how serious that is, but that is there. That Kenny Wallace is out there saying that. I think he's kind of being playful with it, but wouldn't surprise me if there are some real conversations happening, because Ricky Thornton Jr. obviously is one of the top drivers in the country, and we know how well dirt drivers do in NASCAR. Obviously, just look at Kyle Larson, look at Christopher Bell, etc. So goes on and says that another benefit is actually teaming up with Jimmy Owens, being a teammate to Jimmy Owens, describing him as always his hero growing up. And then obviously talking about how he will also have the opportunity to race in the Koehler family's modified and micro sprints on occasion. He says, for me, it's kind of cool that he does have the other stuff. So obviously focus on the family, but as we were just talking about, he does indeed like to race, and he likes to bring his family to the races, and he likes to race anytime he can. And obviously being able to race in those modifieds, in those micro sprints, is probably a really good opportunity for him. Maybe he convinces them, I don't know if they have a I don't know if they have a midget team, but or a midget program yet, but maybe he convinces them to get in on a midget program as well, especially for those Chili Bowl appearances that Ricky Thornton Jr. participates in. So he did want to make sure that that this won't affect Jimmy Owens specifically. And it says here, He's assuming Jordan Kohler's number 114 operation for the time being. We saw that they literally had like a sticker of the 20RT that they posted on the 114 last night at 34 Raceway, but everything else was still the Jordan Kohler's car. His race cars, transporter, crew chief, Kenny Payton, and everything else in between until the team gets their hands on a new fleet of Longhorn chassis specifically for Thornton. So they are going to be investing heavily in him as well. That probably played a big factor into why he chose Koehler Motorsports. He's getting a whole new fleet of Longhorn chassis that he's clearly going to to be getting up to snuff, up to his specifications. And then he specifically talks here about Jimmy Owens being his teammate. He says it's pretty cool to be able to interact with Jimmy and know that his team isn't going anywhere. That was my main thing once we started here. I didn't want Jimmy's program to change if they were going to bring me over. I don't want to say just for respective race teams, he said, but he's honored that he had many intriguing proposals to consider. So we're going back to all of those proposals here, which we were talking about in the beginning of the article. There are a lot of people wanting to make sure we were still able to race and stay on the Lucas Tour. A lot of them said, we can get you through next weekend and we can kind of go from there and figure it out. That's where I feel like the support I've gotten off this has been really, really awesome. I'm super thankful. It makes me feel a little bit better. So obviously we saw the Shepherd, Brandon Shepherd, Stevie Shepherd did indeed get him through Monday night at Castro Flow Racing. And then obviously this Koehler deal is now a long-term deal for the 2024 season. And he's hoping for beyond. He did talk about his crew and how he is going to be disappointed that he's not working with them anymore, describing them as his three best friends, and they were basically part of his family. He says, I love my guys. I love Burrows. I love Tharp. I love DJ. The family aspect of it sucks for sure. They're my three best friends. Obviously, I've talked with them since knowing when I show up to the racetrack that they're not working for me or with me. It's going to suck, but it's a business. I understand it. I will for sure keep that relationship with them no matter what. I would not be surprised if he has to get into the hot pit and you see them out there helping him out. You see this all the time in all of the series where various teams are helping each other out, especially when it comes to damaged car in the hot pit, because they keep these teams so lean. And when you have some damage to the car, you really need all hands on deck, and everyone kind of just goes out and helps each other. And I would not be surprised if that is still the case. He says, I feel like I've tried to build relationships with a lot of people that I've never really raced with were reaching out saying, hey, we have a car, we have a couple motors, we can go do this. That part's been awesome. A lot of them were people understanding the situation, and I would say it definitely helps. Not that we're guaranteed anything points-wise, but we're in a good position still. If we struggle for a little bit, I feel like we can still be confident enough to where we're not going to finish 15th in points. I think after his performance in 34 Raceway, it's hard to imagine him struggling. I mean, he finished fourth. He kind of came from the middle of the field and had a really good car, and he was doing Ricky Thornton Jr. things. He saved that car and was really working through the field, especially there kind of towards the end, moving to the front. So I'm not sure if they'll be struggling for all that long. Maybe in qualifying and in the heat races, obviously we saw him have issues in Shepherd's car on Monday with that. Got him behind, started in 20th, and again, kind of similar story. So once he kind of gets better at the qualifying, better in the heat race performance, I really don't see him having that many issues if we see the performance that he gave last night during the feature. I feel like no matter what, we're still going to finish out the season. My best option was to get together with Bobby Koehler. I think in the long run, it's really going to pay off. So obviously, there are some logistics because it's a very, very busy schedule here moving forward. Obviously, they were at 34 Raceway last night. They get a break tonight because it was rained out, but then they go on to Lucas Oil Speedway, and then he's going to be on the road through much of July here, going to through July 20th, where they take part in the Silver Dollar Nationals at Houston Speedway in Brandon, South Dakota, and then after that, he'll be spending significant time at the Koehler's Race Shop in North Carolina. So this is a big change here. Obviously, he's still located in Martinsville, Indiana, and then he will have to be spending a lot of time in the Koehler's Race Shop in North Carolina. And in fact, he does say he has plans to move to North Carolina. However, it won't be right away because his son is starting kindergarten in just a month, the first week of August. So he says, Relocating, however, is something, or this is what McFadden reports, relocating, however, is something he and his family will look into down the road. Biggest thing is he's stable both occupationally and financially, which after Sunday's life-altering events, opening Thornton's eyes to how much support he truly has. He says, you never want to be in a situation where you don't have money coming in. Essentially, we're very fortunate. Our apparel side has been very good. The support from the fans the last 4 or 5 years has been really good. It's really kept us afloat so we can save up a little bit of money. Not only that, it's just I've had so many people reach out saying, if you can't find something, let us know. If you need to pay bills, we can give you extra money. So he was even getting support on that end. Not even from finding people trying to give him a ride, just people reaching out saying, hey, we can help you get through. And you'd love to see that. That is, I think, something that dirt racing really has. I think racing in general has that. You might see tempers flare on the racetrack, but a lot of times you can put that aside and willing to really help each other out because it is really kind of a small, tight-knit community. And then he says, that side I feel taken care of. Say if we did race or didn't perform well, there's enough people out there making sure us as a family is in good shape. I feel like that part is pretty special, that anyone would care about us that much, that no matter what, our family is going to be okay. But I think as far as why he chose Koehler, clearly he gets to be teammates with Jimmy Owens. I obviously think the part where Bilstein shocks, Longhorn chassis, they're already kind of in tune with what the Koehler team is doing. So I think it's not that big of an adjustment there. I think that was definitely, obviously, a big factor as well. And then clearly he talks about here the family aspect as well, being able to like go on vacations, but also maybe those vacations are to another racetrack where he's racing a modified or racing in a micro sprint, which the Koehlers have as well. And we know that he's talked about maybe mentoring the Koehlers boys in their micro sprints and things like that. So that definitely seems to be like what won him over with Koehler. Obviously, we don't know the financial details of it as well. Maybe they had the sweetest financial details as well. Obviously, that plays a big factor. He's talking about that throughout and how people were actually reaching out to him for that. So I would assume that played a deal as well. But that is what Ricky Thornton Jr. had to say. That is why he chose Koehler Motorsports. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does, especially after last night, that 4th place finish. I thought that was very, very impressive, finishing in 4th place. And I really am really interested to see how Lucas Oil plays out now moving forward. I'm not sure if Ricky Thornton Jr. is the favorite. Obviously, he still is at the top of his game. He finished 4th, but Devin Moran has really been cooking lately. He might be at the top now with Lucas Oil. He's put on a statement last night, won by over 2 seconds, pretty much dominated the race, was only really challenged a little bit early on by Tim McCready. But even if you listen to his post-race interview, he didn't really seem worried about that because he kind of knew that McCready's tires would kind of wear out and he would be able to get around him later on. And that is indeed what happened. So I think the Lucas Oil series is looking really good right now as far as competition, especially with this mix-up. There's lots of storylines, there's lots of drama, and there's lots of good racing. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below.